G'day guys, it's Ben here. We recently completed the Stirling Ridge Walk, which is one of Western Australia's most premier mountain hikes. The Stirling Ridge Walk is located in the Stirling Ranges, about a 4.5 hour drive from Perth City.
In total, from start to finish, it's about 30 kilometres and about 2,700 metres of elevation gain.
We stayed the night at the Stirling Range Retreat and got up early about 5:30 before grabbing our parks pass and hitting the road, dropping our car off at the Bluff Knoll car park, and then getting collected by Dave from the Bluff Knoll Cafe, who provides a shuttle service for hikers. Massive shout out to the team at Bluff Knoll Cafe for that. And then we're basically on the trail, starting at Ellen's Peak Trailhead.
The first 6.5 k's, you're really just walking along a fire break towards the ridge. You do get some nice views of what's ahead of you. And it's also good to break in your legs as your packs will be heavy, having to carry all of your water for the expedition. After about 6.5 k's of walking, you will hit this very unassuming turn off. It really marks the start of the trail. Seeing what we had ahead of us here, we decided it was a good time to sit down, get some food on us, and put some sunscreen on before we got cracking. That is Ellen Peak, which is the first summit of the hike and puts you onto the ridge. From the very start of the trailhead through to the summit of Ellen Peak is about 12 k's and about 720 metres of elevation gained. About halfway to Ellen Peak summit, you reach this flat point where you get a nice reprieve and you can see the views are pretty spectacular, give you a bit of an insight into what you've got ahead of you.
Okay, yeah.
Actually going up Ellen Peak, while it doesn't look too difficult, it was pretty tough, mostly given because of our packs being so heavy, because you have to carry all your water and food. And we also had the sun beating down on us, and there was no shade at all.
Come on. You're on video, mate.
What a bloody soldier. This part here is a little bit sketchy. You're basically shuffling along a cliff face, but it was pretty cool.
No nibble.
Now you do pop up to this bit here, which you're going to think is the summit, but it's actually a false summit. It is flat. It's a good spot to have a little break, which you can see we pulled up in that cave. The actual summit is another 2 or 3 minutes away, which we did push onto, and you'll see in a moment we're up there on the top. Yes, I did pack a litre of kefir out with me. That stuff is mother's milk. And we also did see a lot of lizards throughout the trail. So here we are on the true summit of Ellen Peak. Magnificent views from up here and a really good vantage point for the trails that you're about to take off on. So after you've descended Ellen Peak, you go on the south side of Pyungarup Peak. You don't actually go over it, and you'll see it's quite shaded here, so not a lot of sunlight hitting this area, which means it's a bit of a different climate. It was also a lot cooler, like weather-wise, something different, which is really nice. The rock formations here are pretty cool as well. You know, you've got iron-stained sandstone and some shale. Coming out of Pyungarup Peak south, you get some of the best views on the whole ridge. You can see Bluff Knoll in the distance there, basically just teasing you. As I said before, not a lot of sun gets this area, so things are quite wet and slippery. We fell over at least 10 times each. One stack I had, I slid about 3 meters, which is a bit dodgy, so you do have to be careful in this area. You can also see some caves along this ridge here, which you can sleep in if you want. So here we popped out of Pyungarup Peak and we're just looking back at that mountain while Dana shows us how much dirt she got on her ass from falling over. We saw our first eagle of the trip here. I'm going to say it was a wedgetail. Really cool just to see it cruising around. Now here we're walking over Baker's Knob towards the 3 arrows, and because we started at Ellen's Peak Trailhead, the first arrow that we see is the third arrow. So in front of us now is the third arrow, which is where the famous camping cave is located. We actually planned on staying at the camping cave that night. However, we could not find it for the life of us. So we made the call to push on past the second and first arrow to She Oak Cole to set up camp for the night. So here we're looking back at the first arrow, which is pretty straightforward, to be honest. So was the second arrow. That was even easier. However, you see when we get to the first arrow, which is about now, that was really sketchy, very technical stuff. Definitely the hardest part of the whole hike. I would not recommend doing that in any weather conditions other than sunny. It was really slippery and a lot of loose rocks. We had to move very slowly through the first arrow.
Here we are pulling into Shio Cole for the night. We rocked up here about 5:20, set up tent, made dinner, and then we're in bed about 7 o'clock. There was one other gentleman here, and he'd taken the flattest spot, so we had to set up here. There was really no other flat spots. While we were in bed at about 7:20, another group of guys rocked in the dark, and they looked like they'd been to war. They'd gotten lost, they were in pain, and they had to basically sleep on pretty terrible slants. So make sure you get in early there.
And I had to fish these bugs out of my water, otherwise Dana wouldn't have been able to cook me this beautiful cup of tuna, beans, and couscous.
We got about 10 hours of sleep that night, and we're up at 5:45 the next morning, packing up camp, and we're on the trail by 6:20 because we wanted to catch the sunrise, which we did see. As you can see, beautiful, beautiful sunrise over the 3 hours. I snapped this really cool selfie, and I later saw on a local Perth community page that half of the state went up to Bluff Knoll to catch this sunrise. So it was really crowded up there, and it was just great that we got to enjoy this special moment just ourselves. We did not see another person here.
So I would strongly recommend wearing waterproof pants on this hike. As you can see, I did not, and I was soaking wet. That's really because overnight when it gets cold, all of the foliage gets a lot of dew on it, and then in the mornings when you're walking through it before the sun's hit it, you're basically knocking all that water all over your body. Here's some of that quartz that the ridge is known for. And as we got up early to see the sunrise, we didn't have breakfast in the morning, so we decided to set up on top of Isonga up peak and have a moment to have some brekkie, brush our teeth, have a coffee. I also had to air my dogs out. As you can see, they were soaking wet, so I would also recommend wearing waterproof shoes. But at least I got to watch this cloud roll in. And we then pushed on to the next spot, which was Mun Gungunda uphill. Still looking like I wet myself. But walking on top of the clouds here, it's pretty awesome.
All the grass trees.
So this here is Mun Gungunda uphill.
I was
Pretty
trying to get a
flat.
better spot.
Not a bad spot to stay the night. You can see basically all morning these random clouds of fog rolling through and then clearing out pretty quickly. This here is Eucalyptus Cole, which is only another 700 odd meters past Mungungunda up. It's another big flat campground, good spot to set up your tent. I believe this is the last real spot you can stay before Bluff. Here we are finally starting to ascend Bluff Knoll. Really, it's all uphill from here, about 300 meters, which doesn't sound like a lot, but after the last day, you're pretty naked. Dana also had a bit of a dodgy knee by now, so we weren't moving too quickly. As you can see, the views here are absolutely stunning, and it's really cool just to have a look back on where you've come from and see how much you've conquered. We saw some more eagles here. There was actually two floating around the sky. I only got one on camera. I'm going to guess it was a wedge tail. We are at the summit of Bluff Knoll. A little bit less serene than where we'd been. There was a few people around making a lot of noise. I was lucky enough to have my own chef cook me up a wrap.
Hand it over.
But we didn't hang around here for too long. To be honest, I thought the views were pretty mid compared to the rest of the ridge. Here's me exercising my free will to celebrate making it to the top of Bluff and basically completing the walk. And then we're on the descent, which is pretty much just a big staircase for about 3Ks. Took us about an hour. At the top, you do get some really nice views over the ranges.
It's like a big.
So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. All in all, it was a fantastic walk. Really, really enjoyed it. One of my favorites of all time. We'll definitely be back to do it again. Don't know that I'd do it in any other weather conditions though, as it wouldn't have been as enjoyable if it was raining or whatnot.
Thanks heaps for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Cheers.